Let's talk about Chapter 7, which is all about business markets and their buying behaviors. The learning objectives of this chapter are as follows. We will compare the major characteristics of the business market to the consumer market, describe the 4 categories of business markets, summarize the 3 major ways marketers segment business markets, describe the 3 major factors that influence purchase decisions in the business market, list the 7 steps in the organizational buying process, outline the 5 roles within the buying center, and then the chapter summary. What is a B2B market? It means business to business market, which is when the customer is a business rather than an individual end user or consumer. Several characteristics distinguish the business or the B2B from the consumer market or the B2C. These are the following: product, size and number of buyers, promotion, distribution, geographic market concentration, buyer-seller relationships, and purchase decision process. Let us look at each one in more detail. First, the product. Products purchased in the business market are typically more technical and variable in nature, while the consumer market is more standardized. Thus, accompanying services are usually more important. So, for instance, a business purchasing several hundred printers for its offices might be able to negotiate free servicing of those printers. The second characteristic is the size and number of buyers. The business market features a limited number of buyers when compared to the consumer market. However, most of those buyers purchase larger volumes than individual consumers. Business buyers are few in numbers but large in terms of size. Example, a few large buyers such as McDonald's, Wendy's, and Burger King dominate the fast food industry. These chains have the power to name the price they will pay farmers for meat and can dictate living conditions and standards of labor on ranches. The next is promotion. Because business customers require more customization and service, and because business customers usually purchase in larger quantities, promotion in the business market emphasizes personal selling. In the consumer markets, personal selling is typically reserved for larger, more complex purchases such as houses and cars. For most consumer purchases, though, such as items you might purchase at the grocery store, advertising is a more cost-effective form of promotion. Next is distribution. Business market distribution channels are typically shorter and more direct, with products passing through fewer intermediaries compared to consumer markets. Geographic market concentration. The business market is more geographically concentrated than the consumer market. Manufacturers often converge in certain regions of the country, making these areas prime targets for business marketers. Next is the buyer-seller relationships. It is an especially important characteristic of business market is the relationship between buyers and sellers. These relationships often are more enduring and complex than consumer market relationships. In the business market, a single transaction may generate millions of dollars for a company. The next is purchase decision process. Suppliers who serve business markets must work with multiple decision makers, especially when selling to larger organizations. Managers at several levels may influence financial orders. The overall process is more formal and professional than the consumer purchasing process. Business purchases usually require longer time frames. So these are the summary of the comparison between business and consumer markets. First, in the category of products, B2B markets are more technical and variable, and accompanying services are more important. In the B2C, more standardized and service is important but less than those for business markets. The next is size and number of buyers. For B2B, there are fewer buyers, but each is larger. For the B2C, more buyers because it mainly consists of individuals and households. For the category of promotion, B2B emphasizes on personal selling, while the B2C is emphasizing more on advertising. In terms of distribution, B2B markets use relatively short and direct channel to market. B2C, however, products pass through a number of intermediaries en route to customers. Next is geographic market concentration. For there are more geographically concentrated B2B markets because business industries often cluster together. The B2C markets are less geographically concentrated because consumers are dispersed throughout the market. For buyer-seller relationships, B2B relationships are more enduring and complex in nature. For the B2C, infrequent direct contact and relationships of relatively short duration is more experienced. In terms of purchasing decision process, the B2B have diverse group of organization members who make decisions. For the B2C, they are more on individual or household unit who make decisions. There are four major categories which define the business market, namely commercial, reseller, government, and institutional. The commercial market is the largest segment of the business market. It includes all individuals and firms that acquire products to support, directly or indirectly, production of other goods and services. Examples are raw materials for production businesses. The second category includes retailers and wholesalers known as resellers. Most resale products such as clothing, appliances, sports equipment, and automobile parts are finished goods that buyers sell to final consumers. The key that distinguishes resellers from the commercial market is that resellers usually don't alter the product in any meaningful way. They simply are part of the distribution supply chain for those products. However, in some cases, they do limited processing, such as when a retail meat market may purchase a side of beef and then cut and wrap individual pieces before selling it to their customers. The third is government. The government category of the business market includes domestic institutions of government such as local, regional, national, and even international governments. The primary motivator behind government purchasing is to provide some form of public benefit such as infrastructure or national defense. Institutional, both public and private, include a wide range of organizations such as hospitals, churches, skilled care and rehabilitation centers, colleges and universities, museums, and nonprofit agencies. They follow rigid, standardized purchasing procedures. Segmenting the B2B market. Business markets service a wide variety of customers, so marketers must identify the different market segments they serve. Different market segments can be identified by demographic characteristics, customer type, or end-use application. First, demographic characteristics. As in consumer markets, demographic characteristics provide useful segmentation criteria for business markets. For example, firms can be grouped by size, based on sales revenues or by number of employees, geographic location, or number of products being offered. Customer-based segmentation. Customers can be grouped by type or industry. This is more specific than the 4 business market categories mentioned in the previous section. For example, within the commercial market alone, customers could be grouped by manufacturers, restaurants, grocery stores, and many other groupings. Understanding that different types of business markets or business market customers often require a more precise or complex level of product customization. End use application. This segments the business market based on the ultimate way in which a buyer uses a product. For example, Xerox as a company, Xerox business market customers for its printers may range from a local bicycle repair shop to the Department of Defense. The local repair shop likely requires low volume use, while the Department of Defense requires high volume use. Since printers capable of high volume use command higher prices, Xerox might prioritize selling to those customers because or before allocating resources to the businesses who don't print as much. The business buying process are the factors that influence business market purchasing decisions. The purchasing process in the business market is more complex than in the customer or consumer market. Business purchasing, otherwise known as buying or procurement, takes place within a formalized framework consisting of budgets, cost projections, and profit considerations. Environmental factors include economic, political, regulatory, competitive, and technological considerations. All of these influence business markets' purchasing decisions. The second is organizational factors. Purchasing methods differ among firms, and successful B2B marketers must understand their clients' organizational structures, policies, and purchasing processes. A company with a centralized purchasing process operates differently from one that delegates purchasing decisions to divisional or geographic units. Interpersonal influences. Business marketers should know the persons in an organization who will influence buying decisions. What are each of those persons' priorities, as well as the technical features of their products. Many people may influence business market purchases, and considerable time may be spent obtaining the input and approval of various members of a firm. Both group and individual forces are at work here, as decisions made by committee come about differently than those made by individuals. The organizational buying process. This buying process follows a sequence of activities. Not every buying situation requires every step, though. Marketers to business customers must familiarize themselves with the entire process in order to be most effective. Now let's look at the organizational buying process. This shows the 7-step buying process. Step 1, anticipate or recognize a problem, need, or opportunity. Both consumer and business purchase decisions spawn from an existing or anticipated problem, need, or opportunity. Step 2, define characteristics and the quantity of a needed good or service. Buyers must translate these needs into detailed specifications for the product they want to purchase. Step 3, search for and qualify potential suppliers. The choice of a supplier may be relatively straightforward if there are limited options within that market or industry. Step 4, gather and analyze proposals. Suppliers often submit written proposals to compete for business market opportunities, which are then gathered together and analyzed by the purchasing firm. Step 5, evaluate proposals and select suppliers. After gathering and analyzing supplier proposals, a firm must evaluate and judge each proposal, attempting to select the one that is most likely to satisfy its needs. Step 6, select and order routine. Once a supplier has been chosen, buyer and vendor must work out the best way to process future purchases. Ordering procedures can vary considerably. The last step, which is step 7, obtain feedback and evaluate performance. During the last step, buyers measure each vendor's performance. Sometimes this evaluation involves a formal assessment of product quality, delivery performance, prices, technical knowledge, and overall responsiveness to customer needs. Buying center roles. A company's buying center encompasses everyone involved in any aspect of its buying activity. It is an informal group whose composition and size vary among purchase situations and firms. To be clear, a buying center is not part of a firm's formal organization structure. So for example, the buying center of equipment for a medical research laboratory may include the architect who designed the lab, the scientists who work there, the purchasing manager who screens contractor proposals, the chief executive officer who makes the final decision, and the vice president of research who signs the formal contracts for the project. There are typically 5 main roles in buying center, namely the following: users, influencers, gatekeepers, buyers, and the deciders. The users are the people who will actually use a good or service. Their influence on the purchase decision will vary depending on the situation. Users sometimes initiate purchase actions by requesting products, and then they may also help develop product specifications, especially for custom designs. Next are influencers. They are the people who affect the buying decision by supplying information to guide the evaluation of alternatives or by establishing buying specifications. Influencers are typically technical staff such as engineers or quality control specialists. The third are the gatekeepers. They are the people who control the information that all buying center members ultimately review. They may exert this control by distributing printed product data or advertisements, or by deciding which salespeople may speak to certain individuals in the buying center. A purchasing agent may allow some salespeople to speak with the engineers responsible for developing specifications, but deny others the same privileges. The fourth are the buyers, who are the people who have the formal authority to select the supplier and begin securing the good or service. And the last are the deciders. They are those who actually select a good or service. In many cases, the buyer and the decider are the same person, but not always. So for example, a firm's buyer may have the formal authority to select a supplier, but the firm's chief operating or the chief executive officer may want to provide final sign-off on the purchase, making them the true decider. Another example of a decider might be a design engineer who develops specifications intended specifically for a single vendor. While the buyer might have the formal authority to select a supplier, the design engineer effectively decided who that supplier would be through the design specifications. For this reason, the identity of the decider is the most difficult role for a salesperson to uncover. So to summarize, we have discussed the difference between the B2B versus a B2C market in terms of products, size and number of buyers, promotion, distribution, geographic market concentration, buyer-seller relationships, purchase decision process. We also talked about the four categories of business markets, namely commercial, reseller, government, and institutional. We also talked about the three ways of segmenting B2B markets, which are demographic characteristics, customer-based segmentation, and end-use application. Then we also discussed the three major factors that influence the B2B purchase decisions, namely the environmental factors, organizational factors, and interpersonal influences. Then we talked about the 7 steps in the B2B buying process. And finally, we talked about the 5 roles within the buying center, which are the users, the influencers, the gatekeepers, the buyers, and the deciders. That is chapter 7, business markets and buying behavior.